They are the partners who pull away just when things get good. The friends who vanish for weeks without explanation. You can see them and speak to them, but the moment you try to emotionally reach them, you hit something solid, invisible, and impenetrable. This describes the dismissive avoidant attachment style. Being distant or commitment phobic is only part of the picture, as this is a biological survival strategy forged in childhood. For years, these individuals have been labeled as cold or unfeeling, but recent psychology shows a different internal reality. We are walking through the invisible wall to understand why some people can never let anyone get close, and what it actually feels like to be trapped on the other side. A devastating paradox lies at the heart of the dismissive avoidant experience, where the human biological need for connection clashes with a learned survival instinct screaming danger when intimacy occurs. Secure individuals find comfort in closeness, but dismissive avoidant people feel suffocated. Imagine you are hiking and a bear starts chasing you. Your heart races while your muscles tense, because your only thought is escape. This is the exact physiological response a dismissive avoidant person often feels when a partner says they need to talk or moves the relationship to a deeper level. They do want love, but their nervous system has miswired intimacy as a loss of autonomy. They aren't running from you, but rather running to regain the only safety they have ever known, which is their independence. No baby is born avoiding connection. This style is manufactured in the earliest years of life, often through what psychologists call emotional neglect. This doesn't necessarily mean abuse. It can happen in a home where parents were physically present but emotionally absent, such as caregivers who were overwhelmed, depression-prone, or believed that picking up a crying child would spoil them. When a child's cries for comfort go unanswered enough times, a heartbreaking adaptation occurs, and the child stops crying. They realize that expressing needs brings rejection or silence, so they flip a switch. They decide, unconsciously, to take care of themselves. This child grows up to be the adult who prides themselves on never asking for help, viewing their hyper-independence as a badge of honor rather than a scar of neglect. Many people consider avoidance a choice, yet neuroscience shows otherwise. Studies by Vertica and colleagues have shown that when dismissive avoidant individuals view images of social intimacy, their brains lack the reward signals seen in secure people. The areas associated with emotional suppression become highly active instead. Their body registers vulnerability as a threat to their survival. When a partner gets too close, the avoidant person's cortisol levels spike. The visible coldness is rarely a lack of feeling, but rather a desperate attempt to regulate a nervous system ringing alarm bells. They are not shutting you out to be cruel, but rather shutting down because their internal dash build is flashing system overload. If this analysis resonates with you, whether you are behind the wall or trying to reach through it, consider subscribing. We look into the psychology of human connection every single week. To keep overwhelming intimacy at bay, the dismissive avoidant relies on deactivating strategies defined by attachment theory. These are unconscious behaviors designed to suppress romantic feelings the moment they arise. This might involve keeping secrets and maintaining excessive privacy about small things. It could also mean avoiding physical closeness by pulling away after a hug or walking a few steps ahead of a partner. They might sabotage plans when things are going well, or label their partner as needy for wanting normal levels of contact. These behaviors are tools built to maintain a safe distance rather than random quirks. The goal is always ensuring that no one becomes important enough to hurt them. One painful deactivating strategy involves a sudden hyper-focus on flaws. You might be dating a dismissive avoidant for 3 months where everything is perfect, but suddenly they cannot stand the way you chew your food or the sound of your laugh. This is often called the ick, but it serves a specific function for the avoidant. Magnifying a small imperfection allows them to justify emotional withdrawal. They tell themselves they are not afraid of intimacy, but rather that the person is simply wrong for them. This creates a logical reason to leave a situation that feels emotionally dangerous, while protecting them from the vulnerability of caring about someone imperfect. A fascinating and frustrating aspect of this attachment style is the Phantom X. You might find that a dismissive avoidant person remains attached to a partner from years ago, whom they claim was the one that got away. They often were not that close to that person when they were actually together. The Phantom X is safe because they are not present. They cannot make demands, suffocate you, or let you down. Idealizing a ghost effectively blocks any real person from getting close. They might say they cannot commit because they are still not over that past partner. This acts as a shield by using a memory to keep the present at a distance. You might have shared a deeply intimate evening with someone, only for them to disappear or turn cold the next day. This is known as a vulnerability hangover. A great date builds momentum for a secure person, but it triggers an alarm for the dismissive avoidant. They wake up the next morning realizing they let their guard down, and their nervous system signals that the situation is unsafe. They retreat to regulate themselves, often not texting for days or acting aloof when you finally speak. The date was not bad, but rather too good. The intensity of the connection exceeded their window of tolerance, so they were pretty much in the initiative avoidant, and they recreates the intensity that I would realize they'd seem to the develop. The intensity of the connection exceed their window of tolerance, so they watch them for their own line for the duty. The intensity of the connection exceed their window of tolerance, so they watched them for their most avoidance. They were suspected that they're faxoning and recruited themselves. The intensity of the connection exceed their window of tolerance, so they were able to replace the most avoidance. The date was not bad to the different part, cause they were pretty well for the develop. This is then 2014 the more. The intensity of the connection exceed their window of tolerance. The intensity of the connection exceed their window of tolerance, so they watch them for their most avoidance. The intensity of the connection exceed their window of tolerance, so they watch them for their most avoidance. The date was not bad, but they were not realized for the very own line for the develop. They need to re-establish their autonomy to feel stable again. Online dating advice often confuses dismissive avoidance with narcissist, which is a dangerous mistake. Both can seem cold and self-centered, but the core motivation is entirely different. A narcissist withdraws to punish you, control you, or because they have found a better source of supply, since they lack genuine empathy. A dismissive avoidant withdraws to protect themselves. They are not trying to manipulate you, but rather attempting to survive their own internal panic. Dismissive avoidants do have empathy, yet they suppress it because other people's pain feels overwhelming. If you tell a narcissist you are hurting, they might gaslight you. A dismissive avoidant might freeze up and look indifferent, but inside, they often feel inadequate and guilty that they cannot comfort you. Dismissive avoidants famously attract people with an anxious attachment style. This creates the most common dysfunctional pairing in relationships. The anxious person craves closeness and reassurance, triggering the avoidant's fear of engulfment. The avoidant pulls away and triggers the anxious person's fear of abandonment. The anxious person chases harder by texting and calling, which makes the avoidant build their walls higher. This becomes a self-perpetuating cycle of misery. The avoidant confirms their worldview that people always want too much, while the anxious person confirms their fear that people will always leave. They are perfectly cast in each other's tragedies, dancing painful steps until one of them collapses or wakes up. Understanding what happens inside the mind of the dismissive avoidant while they are stonewalling is revealing. This is usually not a malicious plot, but rather a sense of defectiveness. Their internal monologue often expresses confusion about what is wanted or a fear of failure. They often feel a deep, hollow loneliness, but they do not know that connection is the cure because they have never experienced consistent co-regulation. They believe the cure is more solitude. They interpret their partner's emotional needs as demands for performance, which they feel ill-equipped to give. They are rarely thinking they are superior, but instead thinking they are broken and function better alone. This survival strategy comes with a steep price. Dismissive avoidants are often highly successful in their careers where logic and independence are rewarded, but their personal lives often remain empty. They miss out on the deep and messy reality of being truly known by another human being. They might wake up later in life realizing that their independence has become isolation. They have kept themselves safe from heartbreak, but they have also prevented joy. The tragedy is that their autonomy becomes a prison cell. They act as the warden of their own solitary confinement by guarding an empty room that no one is allowed to enter. Attachment styles are not life sentences. The brain remains plastic throughout life, and earned security is possible. Healing for a dismissive avoidant does not mean becoming a clingy person, but learning that independence and intimacy can coexist. It starts with somatic awareness to feel the body's threat response and self-soothe without running away. This involves small steps of vulnerability, like saying one feels overwhelmed instead of ghosting, or staying in the room when the urge to flee hits. It requires a partner who is secure enough to give them space without punishment, along with a willingness to challenge the core belief that they do not need anyone. The major shift for a recovering avoidant is moving from auto-regulation to co-regulation. They have managed their emotions alone for their entire lives. Healing involves learning that another person's presence can calm their nervous system rather than aggravate it. This takes practice. It might look like sitting on the couch with a partner in silence while reading separate books to be alone together. It involves recognizing that needing support is human rather than a weakness. When they finally let someone in, they often discover that the connection they spent a lifetime fearing is the only thing that can truly make them feel safe. The wall does not have to come down all at once, as simply putting a door in it is a transformative start. The instinct when loving someone with this attachment style is to chase, but you must do the opposite. You cannot tear down their wall with force because they will just build it thicker. The most effective strategy involves standing securely outside the gate and waiting. Give them the space they need before they ask for it. Reinforce their positive actions rather than criticizing their distance. When they do take a step toward you, welcome it warmly without making a big deal out of it. You must also have boundaries. Understanding their trauma is not the same as accepting neglect. You can offer a safe harbor, but you cannot force a ship to dock if the captain is determined to stay at sea. When a dismissive avoidant person finally feels safe enough to heal, the partner they become is often extraordinary. Because they are self-sufficient, they are low drama. They are loyal, steady, and capable of immense depth once the threat response subsides. They do not love lightly, but rather love carefully. The journey from the frozen fortress of avoidance to the warmth of secure connection is one of the bravest psychological treks a person can make. It requires fighting against every instinct they develop to survive their childhood. For those who do the work, the reward is finally realizing that the glass wall was not protecting them from danger, but separating them from life. The invisible wall does not have to be permanent. Whether you are standing behind it or trying to see through it, understanding the mechanics of fear is the first step toward dismantling it. We are all wired for connection, no matter how hard we try to rewire ourselves for solitude. If this exploration helped you understand yourself or someone you love a little better, join us for the next one. Click subscribe to keep learning, as you do not have to do it all alone.